Okay, we are recording.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining the Braintree Chamber of Commerce chat with the candidates for state representative of the 5th Norfolk District of Braintree and parts of Randolph and Holbrook. I want to thank Representative Mark Cusack and Challenger Frank Collins for taking the time out of their busy schedules to join us today and tell our communities a little bit more about their policies and thoughts on moving forward with this economic recovery. I want to apologize for the technical difficulties in getting in. We will be airing the broadcast if you miss any part of it, both on our social media, Braintree Chamber and South Shore Chamber. BCAM will be airing it, and Braintree Patch will have a link available for people to watch it as well. So welcome, everyone. The event also is being recorded so that you know to have that happen. My name is Kim Kroha. I'm chair of the Braintree Chamber of Commerce, and I'm an attorney with Baker Braverman Barbadoro. I want to thank the sponsors that let programs like this, and more particularly in-person programs when we get back there, and help those events take place and support the Chamber. South Shore Bank, Toyota Braintree, Liberty Bay Credit Union, Quincy Credit Union, Brewster Ambulance, Build, and Vibrancy Communications. I also want to make sure to thank the Randolph Chamber. They joined us today as well.
I'm on mute.
And we will have a recap of the event also on our website, braintreechamber.com, where you can also find recaps of business COVID updates that we've done since the spring shutdown. Braintree Chamber is an affiliate of the South Shore Chamber of Commerce. And if you want information on joining either Braintree Chamber or South Shore Chamber, which includes Braintree Chamber, also check out our website, braintreechamber.com. All right, and now with the delay, let's get down to business. The format today, each candidate will have 3 minutes for an introduction and a closing. We flipped a coin to see who goes first for both of those. In between that time, we'll have a series of questions, and each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond. I want to thank you all for being here and watching the event and supporting the Chamber. So with that, I will move right into the introduction. Frank Collins, please go ahead.
Good morning, Kim. Thank you to the Braintree Chamber of Commerce for hosting this forum, and to all the members at home for tuning in and watching. My name is Frank Collins, and I'm running to be your next state representative. I am a 4th generation Braintree resident, father, homeowner, taxpayer, retired veteran, and retired blue-collar worker from Local 4 operating engineers. I still proudly carry my card today. I am not a politician. I am not a lawyer. I do not have a political agenda. I just want the opportunity to give back to my community and to represent our voice during a time of much needed change. I come from a middle-class family. My father was a naval architect at Quincy Shipyard.
Yep.
I serve as the president of the Friends of Pond Meadow Park, and I also serve as a commissioner on the Braintree-Weymouth Conservation Recreation District, and was very active there when my son was growing up in the scouting program. I attended Braintree Public Schools. I am a proud graduate of Braintree High School, where our legendary John Leroy was my headmaster and mentor. After high school, I enlisted in the United States Marine Corps, and I served as a jet engine mechanic at the South Weymouth Naval Air Station for many years, and at the Otis Air National Guard Base, honorably retiring after 22 years of reserve and active duty service. I am running for state representative of the 5th Norfolk District because it is time for someone not only to represent us, but to listen to and acknowledge our need for change. During these unprecedented times, we need a state representative that will serve the people and not their own personal best interests. Saying one thing and doing another after being elected seems to be the norm with our elected officials. If you allow me the opportunity to serve you as your next state representative, I promise that will not happen on my watch. I give you my word that I will serve the residents of this district faithfully. Again, I am running for this office because I see an incredible opportunity to serve my community and fellow veterans. Love of my country and my fellow neighbor is my driving force to sustain the well-being of my community. It would be an honor to earn your support, and I respectfully ask for your vote on November 3rd. Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Collins. We appreciate that. Representative Cusack?
Good morning, and thank you, Kim, and thank you to the Chamber and the sponsors for today's forum. My name is Mark Cusack. I am currently serving as a state representative, serving the 5th Norfolk District. Includes the towns of Braintree, part of Holbrook, and part of Randolph. I am seeking re-election because I am proud of my record in delivering for the district. Just a quick way of background. Born and raised in Braintree, graduate of Braintree Public Schools, K through 12, and also graduate of UMass Amherst. After college, I was fortunate to serve as assistant to the first mayor of Braintree, Joe Sullivan, until 2010 when I sought the current office I am in, state representative. Over the past 10 years, I'm proud to have delivered over $650 million back to the district. Quick breakdown, that's nearly $300 million to Braintree, over $130 million to Holbrook, and $225 million to Randolph. I currently serve as the chairman of the Joint Committee of Revenue in the House, and I'm also on the Recovery and Resiliency Committee that was set up by the Speaker to guide our recovery through the pandemic that we're currently in. I'll keep it short because I know we need to get to the issues, but I'm proud of the services we've been able to deliver back to Braintree, the money we've been able to deliver back to Braintree from education, transportation, all across the board in supporting every group in our community, whether that be the students, the homeowners, the business owners, veterans, those with special needs, all across the board. I'm proud of my record, and that's why I am seeking re-election. And I look forward to the discussion today. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Representative Cusack. And for those of you just joining us, I want to apologize again for the technical difficulties. I'm glad that you were able to make it in. We will be recording, or we are recording, and we will be airing the full program. If you missed the introduction and want to go back and take a look at that. We're moving on to the questions. We will alternate who goes first on those questions. And again, each of you have 2 minutes to respond. So Representative Cusack, since you went second on the intro, I'll ask you the first question first. What is the most important issue facing your district of Braintree and parts of Randolph and Holbrook? And how would you address it?
Hello.
Sure.
Hi.
The most important issue, obviously, that we're facing today is the COVID-19 pandemic. It has affected every part of our public life in every sector of our economy and community. You know, from the economic impact, the health impact, our schools. Obviously, we're still dealing with how to, get kids back safely. So we have been dealing with this since the beginning of March, when the pandemic first struck and we first had the shutdown of the state. As I mentioned in my opening, I'm chair of the Revenue Committee, so I have a firsthand seat at the table of the impact this is having on the state. Initial projections were all over the board of how much revenue we'd be losing, but as you saw from the governor's proposed budget yesterday, we're looking at roughly a $3.6 billion loss in the current fiscal year of revenue. That is obviously going to affect things going forward. And, we know it's not just this fiscal year, that this is going to be painful for a while. But we were able to make several commitments to help initially. The first one was obviously the healthcare, providing the services, the testing, the PPE out to our communities, especially in Braintree, Holbrook, and Randolph has a senior population, but also a large population in nursing homes and long-term care facilities. But going forward, we made a commitment to fully fund our local aid, despite of the revenue loss, because the last thing the cities and towns needed while they were dealing with this pandemic themselves was any cut into their budget or from state aid. And that was crucial to the schools to help plan their reopening throughout the summer. And as you see, various hybrids of remote, all in person, or a variation of the two. But we are, currently going through several pieces of legislation that were passed. The first thing we did was extend unemployment to help people who had lost jobs or could not work. We moved back the tax deadlines for businesses and individuals. From restaurants, we extended liquor licenses to allow for outdoor seating, and still looking at other ways to provide assistance to businesses to make sure that not only were they able to reopen safely, but that they will hopefully survive long term. A big part of that was the federal CARES Act. Unlike the federal government, we at the state have to have a balanced budget. So unfortunately, we can't just print money and give it out. But the CARES Act was crucial with the PPP and other pandemic unemployment insurance to
And
really help.
Cusack, you're coming close to the end of the 2 minutes also.
Okay, so obviously the number one issue is the pandemic that we're in and managing our way out of it safely for everyone. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And Mr. Collins?
I'm going to start off with the effects of COVID. Well, to start, when a small business calls me, I'm going to return their calls. As a state rep, I will work to connect businesses to federal resources to assist the small businesses. I will advocate for our businesses. Small businesses are incredibly important to me in our community. As much as I've been talking to small businesses and how the challenges have been, the governor has done his best to lead our Commonwealth through this crisis. Unemployment. I've talked to many people in this district. I know how hard they work, how hard the business owners are praying for a V-shaped recovery. It's important that we hold our line on taxes. My opponent says he wants to get rocking and rolling on taxes, but that will kill jobs in small businesses. Prior to COVID, Governor Baker fought against higher taxes, and we had the lowest unemployment rate in the country. And Governor Baker will need allies to aid in the recovery and stop tax increases.
All right. Thank you both. All right, moving on to the second question. We'll start with you, Mr. Collins, on this one. During the Braintree business update in September, Representative Cusack had mentioned that Massachusetts has a $3 billion revenue shortfall and one of the highest unemployment rates in the country, which is stressing the unemployment trust funds. You had mentioned taxes in your last question, but what are your ideas on increasing revenue in 2021 while protecting business recovery?
I think it's very important that we keep our taxes low so that our small businesses can get back online. Everybody that I talk to during door knocking is very, very concerned about how the money is being spent. Okay, we have to resign in spending.
All right, thank you. And Representative Cusack.
Sure, thank you. Obviously, the unemployment trust fund, as you mentioned, is being stressed. And going forward, weighing different options and how we're going to be able to fund that without adding additional burdens to businesses. And an initial one will be a loan from the federal government in order to fund that without raising taxes. My opponent said I want to get rock and rolling on raising taxes. The quote was rock and rolling on the revenue committee doing its business and holding hearings. So let's just correct that. But going forward, revenue is going to be a challenge. As you saw, Governor Baker's budget and what we've talked about in the House and Senate is we are fortunate to have a $3.5 billion rainy day fund, one of the largest in the nations. So making a draw on that to help plug the hole without jeopardizing our bond rating, which would have spending impacts in the future. But as I mentioned too, we're pretty much resigned to the fact that the feds aren't coming up with a solution anytime soon to help states and cities and towns. So everything's on the table, and going forward as chair of revenue, we were over 550 bills in committee this past session with all different kinds of proposals. But when the new session starts, we'll have to go through those carefully and have a full public viewing and weighing of any option going forward. But first and foremost, it would be, if the feds could get their act together and really help out, it would be the biggest thing for us. But luckily, we're in a financial standpoint too, with our savings, that we are not in some of the dire straits that some of our neighbors in other states are in.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so on the topic of recovery, and Rep. Cusack, we'll have this question directed at you first. The COVID environment requires additional collaboration between business and government. Are there any ways that the local chambers, Braintree Chamber, South Shore Chamber, Randolph Chamber, might be able to help you as the state copes with recovery?
Absolutely. You've been very active holding forums. I participated in the legislative update last month, but connecting businesses with local and state leaders obviously is very important. We obviously don't have all the solutions, in a vacuum. We have to work collaboratively. We have to hear from businesses. I've worked with a lot of businesses since March, with the concerns, what their strain is. And even with the reopening, with the PPP requirements and other things, the added costs without having the additional business. But going forward, obviously, working together and collaboratively is the only way we're going to get out of this.
Thank you. And Mr. Collins?
I'm going to go back to what I said before. The most important thing about this is I would be a liaison to the federal government to help these small businesses get back on track. Okay, enough's enough with raising taxes. Mr. Reagan said many years ago, it's unfair to impose more taxes on hardworking families already struggling to pay their bills. That's all I've got.
Didn't realize I was on mute. All right. And thank you. Well, Mr. Collins, we'll start with you on the next question. There have been new business challenges affecting families like mine, where we are parents, dual working parents of school-aged children, and where I wouldn't have normally thought of education and business as being as connected as it is right now. The lack of in-person learning has seriously affected parents that are also business owners, employees, and employers. Should the state take a larger role in public school planning, or is it best left primarily to the local level?
I'm a fourth generation Braintree resident. I went to Braintree Public Schools, and I believe that we can get through this ourselves, okay? When going door to door, I spoke with parents, how concerned they are about their children's education. This is a tragedy. Parents need to get back to work, and instead they are frantic about remote learning and themselves falling behind. I agree with Governor Baker that we need to get our kids back in school. If we can find a way to do safe trick-or-treating, then we should find a way to be able to get our kids back to school safely.
All right. Thank you. And Representative Cusack?
Sure, thank you. Obviously, the school issue is straining a lot of families with the remote learning versus in-person learning, and the number one is childcare. We have passed funding to increase childcare in spots for essential workers, and now as we go forward, reopening those safely, so parents that cannot work from home have the option of childcare. What we have across the district is kind of a hybrid. It seems to be working for now, but it is obviously straining families. And going forward, it's a whole question of how do you reopen these schools, keeping the social distancing, and making sure that, just say Braintree alone has over 88 communities from which the staff comes from. All you have to do is look at the sick map to see the impact that could potentially have That's why we're providing PPP. I know Braintree High just upgraded their whole HVAC system so they can get students back in this week. But going forward, that's number one, but it can't just be do it yourself or, get mandated by the state. It's a combination of obviously working with state officials. And that's why I think the guidance down to the local communities and the school committees is working right now, because every community is different. The physical environments of every school and every school district is different. And you need to have that flexibility for the safest possible way to return the students and the staff to the classroom.
Okay. Thank you. And that actually is a perfect segue into my next question with the 88 communities that the teachers and educators live in Braintree. The question relates to housing, and Representative Cusack this will be directed at you first. So the median price for a home in Braintree is $550,000, which requires a household income of over $100,000 to purchase that home. And there are likely a bunch of different reasons why educators are living in different areas, but one of them could potentially be the price of housing. With local zoning that focuses on single-family homes, do you think there should be additional state involvement in developing multifamily workforce housing in Braintree?
Affordable housing, obviously, particularly Braintree, is a major issue. What the state should be doing is providing tax incentives and funding to help the communities with the needs they have. In Braintree in particular, we have an aging population, and what we have is a long waiting list at the Braintree Housing Authority of seniors that want to get out of their single family homes and into affordable housing or downsize. So the need here in Braintree really is senior housing and 55 plus housing, which would open up more housing stock, which would be directly impacting on the supply, which would help with the cost. But no, you do need to have affordable housing that is accessible for not just the seniors, as I mentioned, which is our number one need, but people of all economic strata in order to, be able to afford Braintree and to live and work in the community and to stay in the community. My generation, a lot of my friends have gone, south down to Pembroke and Norwell, Hanover, more affordable communities, just simply because of that. And then you get the housing impact of the commute and the impact then on the transportation system. So it's all interconnected. But no, we definitely need more affordable housing, but you need to, look at the individual needs of each town, where ours is 55 plus. So the state should be there to assist, like I said, with funding and whether it's tax rebates or direct funding to help this type of housing, but it's up to the individual communities what serves them best. You can't just have a blanket policy across all 360 cities and towns. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Collins?
I believe in smart development that works and helps our small business owners, but at the same time doesn't hurt our current residents. I've lived in Braintree all my life, and every time someone comes in and tries to add a bunch of housing units in an area that doesn't fit, our quality of life declines. This is one area I respectfully disagree with Governor Baker. This isn't just a housing issue, it's a transportation issue, and it's ultimately a quality of life issue. It means overcrowding in our schools, strains on our infrastructure, and longer commutes home. Now, I recently attended the town hall meeting about the rezoning that tried to get pushed through. And there was a gentleman that stood up in front of all of us and stated that he worked in Quincy, and when he comes home at night, he enters at Archbishop Williams, and it takes him over a half hour to get up to the Braintree Highlands, and that he has to stop at McDonald's for a Big Mac in South Braintree Square. We need to do something about that, okay? Braintree is completely overbuilt, and I do not support any more overbuilding. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. All right, and I just want to say I appreciate both of you helping to keep us on track despite the technical delay. We have one last question, and then we'll head into the closings. So this question directed first at Mr. Collins. There's been an ongoing discussion about promoting racial equality and protecting our communities without discrimination. Do you believe there should be state intervention on these issues? And how would you help to promote these policies in your district?
I don't believe that we need any state intervention with anything. Braintree's always been a welcoming community that's embraced all walks of life. At age 6 years old, I had my tonsils out, okay? And there was a gentleman that lived across the street from us, worked at the Braintree post office. As a young boy, when I came home recovering from having my tonsils out, he came over with ice cream. It was the first time I had met a person of color. He was such a kind and caring man. I didn't view him as any differently, but as a friend and neighbor. We need to get back to taking care of our friends and neighbors and finding common ground as to show how we can bring our community together and move it forward. My good friend and commanding officer, Sergeant Major Fred Douglas, whom I served with in the United States Marine Corps, was my mentor. He was tragically killed in the Beirut bombing in 1983. He was my comrade brother. We were very, very close. I have worked with all nationalities, people of color and race, okay? And I know that we can work this whole thing out. I have knocked on thousands of doors. I can tell you that my love for Braintree and its people have grown even more. Thank you.
Thank you. And Representative Cusack.
Thank you. The question about state intervention, I don't view it as state intervention, but the state obviously is part of the solution here. And I'm proud of the record on this. And what we're doing is you need to provide equal opportunity, whether it's an economic development bill, an education bill, like when we passed the Student Opportunity Act, that every child in the Commonwealth deserves equal access to an equal education regardless of where they live. So from a state perspective, with racial equality, it's really about providing equal opportunity, and that pervades in every policy area we do. For example, when I was chairman of the marijuana committee, writing the marijuana law, we made sure that there were provisions in there to make sure that everyone, regardless of race, ethnicity, or economic condition, was able to participate in this new industry. So from the state perspective, it's making sure that whatever we're doing is making sure that it's equal and accessible to people of all races. And that's where the state comes in on this. In Braintree, I abhor racism. There's no place in Braintree, the Commonwealth of the country, but we can always do better. But going forward as a state representative, what I can affect directly is the opportunity piece to make sure that we are improving quality of life and opportunities for people, that they are equal and have equal opportunity. So that's what we've been focused on from the state. Thank you.
All right. Thank you both. So that is the conclusion of our question period. Appreciate both of your times and thoughtful responses. Now I'll have a closing 3 minutes, and Representative Cusack, please go ahead.
Again, thank you to all who's joined us today, and thank you to Kim and the Chamber for this opportunity. Again, I'm seeking re-election because I'm proud of my record. I'm proud of my experience. I'm proud of my knowledge on the issues that are affecting Braintree, Holbrook, and Randolph and the state. Again, making sure that providing the returning of our money to the district. I'm proud of over $650 million to the district. I'm proud of supporting our schools. Recently in Braintree, we've had a vote on an override to build a South Middle School. I'm proud to play my role in that with the $40 million for East and the $31 million from the state for South. In Holbrook, we got money for a new pre-K through 12 school. The schools are the foundation of our communities. They affect the quality of life, obviously, but also attract people to live here and businesses here. And it's how we're going to keep Braintree, Holbrook, and Randolph, the great places we call home, is investing in our schools. I'm proud of my record on that. I'm proud of my record on public safety and standing with the police and firefighters, and proud that they have endorsed me and standing with me in my reelection. And I'm proud to stand with working families across the district. We have major issues, and the pandemic is number one, but the other issues haven't gone away, whether it's healthcare, transportation, education, as I mentioned, all across the board. And we need experienced, knowledgeable people. I have a record of that. And I want to continue to serve our communities in order to provide a seat at the table at the State House so that Braintree, Holbrook, and Randolph has the representation they truly deserve. And I believe I've provided that, and hopefully get to continue providing that in the future. And again, just thank you all for the participation today.
All right. Thank you. And Mr. Collins, please go ahead.
Thank you again to the Braintree Chamber of Commerce for holding this forum, and to all the members at home for tuning in. Again, my name is Frank Collins, and I'm running to be a next state representative. I'm a fourth generation Braintree resident, father, homeowner and taxpayer, retired veteran, and retired blue-collar union worker, and still proudly carry my card today. Again, I am not a politician or lawyer. I do not have a political agenda. I just want the opportunity to give back to my community and represent our voice at a time for much needed change. I come from a middle-class family. I serve as the president of Friends of Pond Meadow Park and serve as a conservation of the Braintree Weymouth Conservation Recreational District, and was very active there when my son was growing up in the scouting program. After high school, I enlisted in the United States Marine Corps, and I served as a jet engine mechanic for many years at the South Weymouth Naval Air Station and the Otis Air National Guard Base. Finally retiring with 22 years of active duty and military reserve service. I am running for state representative because it is time for someone not only to represent us, but to listen to and acknowledge our need for change. During these unprecedented times, we need a state representative that will be responsive and serve the people and not their own best interests. Saying one thing and doing another after being elected seems to be the norm with our elected officials. If you allow me the opportunity to be your next state representative, I promise that will not happen on my watch. I give you my word, I will serve the residents of our district faithfully and restore the decency and honor of the office of state representative. I am running for this office because I see an incredible opportunity to serve my community and fellow veterans. Love of my country and my fellow neighbor is my driving force to sustain the well-being of my community. It would be an honor to earn your support, and I am respectfully asking for your vote on November 3rd. Thank you.
All right. Thank you both very much. As chair of the Braintree Chamber and a Braintree resident for the last 12 years, I definitely appreciate getting your feedback on the district, of which all of Braintree is included, and then parts of Randolph and Holbrook. Thank you again for taking the time out of your schedules, Representative Mark Cusack, candidate Frank Collins. You both have been very giving with your time and a pleasure to work with, so I appreciate that. Did anyone have to use the mute button? I want to thank everybody for being here, both in person. Apologize again for the technical difficulties of getting in. And oh geez, my timer keeps going off. And I want to thank the people who are watching at home. This will be aired on BCAM. We'll have links available on a variety of sources to get the information out to people. I want to thank Randolph Chamber for being here. And of course, our sponsors who helped make these events possible. South Shore Bank, Toyota Braintree, Brewster Ambulance, Quincy Credit Union, Liberty Bay Credit Union, Beld, and Vibrancy Communications. As I mentioned at the outset, we will have a write-up of this on our website, braintreechamber.com, a little bit later, I guess probably early next week at this point. And there's also information on prior business updates there on our website and our Facebook page. So thank you all for being here and taking part. And we look forward to seeing more of you in the upcoming election. All the best to your campaigns.
Thank you.